You train your entire life, break your body, numb your mind, sacrifice your entire childhood, and for what? One single destiny. You do everything exactly right. You follow every single rule, and you become the absolute best. And then somebody else gets the prize. This is the intensely tragic cinematic reality of Master Tigress. We're talking about a warrior who gave literally everything, but was ultimately denied the one thing she lived for. And in this explainer, we're going to uncover exactly why Tigress never became Dragon Warrior.
The universe has brought us the Dragon Warrior. I mean, just picture the sheer absurdity of this moment. Everything she believed in, completely shattered. Tigress is standing right there in the arena. She's the greatest martial artist alive. She earned this moment. She literally bled for it. And then Master Oogway points his finger, but not at her. He points at a bumbling, untrained, completely out-of-shape panda who, no joke, just fell out of the sky. It feels like a mistake. It feels completely, utterly unfair.
So, why not her? Okay, let's dive into this. Why were decades of broken bones and unending, brutal discipline just cast aside in the blink of an eye? Was it just some cosmic mistake? Or, was there a deeper, maybe darker reason keeping her from taking up that ultimate mantle? Part 1. The Mystery of Worthiness. Because to really understand why she was rejected, we have to look at just how completely perfect she actually was. Look at this flawless record. She was abandoned at the Baogu orphanage. She mastered the fiercely demanding tiger style of kung fu. She spent her youth literally punching ironwood trees over and over until all the feeling in her paws was just entirely gone. This intense, relentless discipline shaped her whole personality. It made her stoic, hard to read, and totally emotionally armored against the rest of the world. She stepped up as the unofficial leader of the Furious Five. I mean, she was the ultimate weapon. And that is exactly what makes her absolute perfection seem like a cruel joke when she's finally denied the scroll. Part 2. Clues in the Shadows. But here's the thing. The answers to our mystery, they aren't actually found in her physical technique. Her martial arts were flawless. No, the clues to her rejection are actually buried way deep within her psychological shadows. Let's trace this tragedy all the way back to its roots. She started out as a terrified little girl. She was feared by all the other children, called a monster because of her temper and her fangs. Master Shifu took her in. He taught her control by having her perfectly place these incredibly fragile dominoes, but really, she just wanted to be loved. Instead, she grew into an adult who punched trees just to feel nothing. And then the cycle of rejection really hit. First, she's passed over for Po, and the ultimate tragedy. Years later, she's passed over again for Zen, an actual street thief. The universe chose a literal criminal over her years of devoted service. It is just a heartbreaking, relentless cycle. Now, to really understand her pain, we've got to look at the man who raised her. Master Shifu was carrying immense, unspoken trauma. His first student, his adopted son, Tai Lung, was denied the Dragon Scroll and practically destroyed the valley in a complete rage. Because of that betrayal, Shifu fundamentally broke inside. He withheld the fatherly affection that Tigress so desperately craved, simply because he was terrified of creating another monster. She was essentially raised as the corrective to Tai Lung. As a result, she intimately linked the title of Dragon Warrior to finally earning her father's love. And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental divide in this whole universe. On one side, you have Shifu and Tigress, the orthodox approach, the hard style. It's the belief that with enough practice, super strict control, and absolute obedience, you earn the prize. But Oogway and Po, they operate on an entirely different frequency. The soft style, Taoism, effortless flow. Tigress genuinely believed she could control her destiny through sheer force. But actually, scratch that. Her rigid martial arts perfection wasn't just her style, it was actually her biggest barrier. It all really comes down to Wu Wei. It's the Taoist concept of effortless action. Think about it in your own life for a second. Have you ever wanted something so desperately, pushed so incredibly hard for it, that your very need for it almost seemed to push it away? The Dragon Warrior is not some meritocratic prize. It's not a shiny gold trophy for the hardest worker in the room. It is a spiritual destiny, and that requires a flexible vessel. Oogway saw that Tigress had this incredibly rigid, desperate need for control. She wanted that scroll to prove her worth, to prove to everyone she wasn't a monster. And that very ego, that desperate desire for approval, was exactly what prevented her from becoming the vessel the universe actually needed. Part 3. The real-world reality. But let's pivot sharply here and pull back the curtain a bit. Because while the in-universe spiritual philosophy makes for this beautiful, beautifully tragic story, there is a counter-theory. Enter the Hollywood twist. According to behind-the-scenes leaks and a pretty revealing Discord Q&A with Kung Fu Panda 4 co-director Stephanie Ma Stein, the production was, well, chaotic. The new director, Mike Mitchell, pushed for a much more jokey tone. The studio basically wanted to completely reset the franchise, so ideas that would have given Tigress a central, deeply emotional storyline, they were simply axed to make room for a completely new demographic. And then, well, there's the math. $20 million. Just let that massive number sink in for a second. That is the jaw-dropping estimated cost to secure a single voice line from Angelina Jolie for a sequel this far into the franchise. It's a real visual gut punch, isn't it?
So the crucial point is this: the invisible hand of Hollywood budget constraints basically became the ultimate decider of her destiny. Exponential salary increases for A-list actors made bringing the original cast back pretty much impossible for the studio. You add in studio-mandated runtime limits and a massive push for younger audiences, and the solution they came up with was honestly brutal. The Furious Five were just written out, relegated to off-screen solo missions with only a tiny, silent cameo right at the very end. The ultimate master, literally silenced by a spreadsheet.
Part 4. Mastery Beyond the Mantle. Now, I know that sounds incredibly unfair, both in the spiritual world of Kung Fu and the highly corporate world of Hollywood. But her story doesn't actually end in defeat. Let's look at this comparison and see how it builds out our final understanding. Look at Zen, the Corsic fox who Poe actually chooses as his successor. She's a street thief, an underdog. She is someone who absolutely desperately needs the structure and discipline of the Jade Palace to literally save her life. Now look at Tigress. She is an established master. She has already found her inner peace. Handing Tigress the scroll now, it would actually be a step backward. It would completely undermine her massive character growth over the series.
She didn't need the scroll. She outgrew it. This completely reframes her lifelong loss as her ultimate victory. She conquered her internal demons, she stopped seeking Shifu's approval, she found her worth without needing any validation from an ancient prophecy or some glowing piece of paper. She became the ultimate, unparalleled master entirely on her own terms.
Part 5. Your turn to decide.
Tigress spent almost her entire life chasing a title, only to realize that her true strength was always right there within her, completely untouched by Hollywood budgets or ancient prophecies. So I want to leave you with this lingering thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Is true mastery defined by the destiny you are handed, or the peace you find when you finally let it go?